What's up guys, welcome back. This is anime fiction. You'll be watching What If Naruto Was Killed by an Anbu, Becoming a Hollow Part 6. Now, let's begin. The room fell into a silence, a stillness so deep it appeared to envelop every corner and crevice. The calm atmosphere was suddenly disrupted by Tessai, whose footsteps resonated as he quickly opened the door. Is there a void? This individual is a hollow? How is that possible? The former commander of the Kido Corps found it challenging to comprehend the transformation of a Quincy into a hollow. Naruto stood amidst the chaos, a confident smile gracing his lips. I regret any abruptness in my communication. I anticipated a reaction of mild surprise, nothing beyond that. As he stood up, Kazuki's black haori billowed in response to the overwhelming energy emanating from Naruto. A distinctive gleam appeared in his eyes, revealing his keen interest. Indeed. Your abilities are quite impressive, Naruto-san. The Arrancar that has been causing us concern over the past few days was, in fact, you all along. What techniques did you employ to effectively conceal your hollow aura? Kazuki, known for his innovative spirit, inquired with genuine curiosity. He had long relinquished the idea of hollows as malevolent beings in his quest to eliminate the distinctions between Shinigami and hollow. For him, the individual held greater significance than their racial background. Could you please provide a mask? That is not correct. There seems to be a misunderstanding. Naruto indicated his face, his hollow features smoothly transitioning back to their usual state, while his wings retracted into his body. This is not concealment. It is transformation. A poignant irony to transform into a hollow after a lifetime dedicated to their extermination. He consistently provided them with misinformation interspersed with elements of truth. Yoruichi approached him and placed her hand on his back, her previous animosity giving way to a look of curiosity. Are you able to transform once more? I am not a laboratory specimen. Additionally, were you not planning to depart? What factors are influencing your continued presence, Shiwan-san? I would have certainly departed if you had not presented this to me. I am uncertain about how to categorize this. Kazuki, do you believe this is feasible, or are we perhaps experiencing an illusion that is deceiving all of our senses, similar to Aizen's tactics? Kazuki reflected on her question, a thoughtful expression forming on his face. He directed his attention to Tessai. What you mentioned is feasible. However, I believe this may not be applicable in this situation. Tessai, did you perceive Naruto-san's hollow aura? Tessai, positioned at the door, acknowledged with a nod. I perceived it distinctly. I hurried over here for that reason. Observe, Yoruichi-san. Tessai must not have shared the same misconception as we did, unless Naruto-san is able to deceive individuals who are not within his immediate vicinity. Wasn't that the case with Shinji? Tessai responded, instilling uncertainty. It is plausible that Naruto-san may have an ability akin to that of Aizen. Naruto gently massaged the back of his head. Aizen's betrayal heightened their caution regarding his extraordinary capability. Even Tessai, typically composed and serene, found himself questioning the reality presented to him. He underwent a transformation under Yoruichi's critical observation. What is your opinion? Is this genuine or merely a mirage? Kazuki interjected with a casual wave of his paper fan, stating, Aizen's Zanpakuto remains relatively obscure, and he possesses a formidable Ryotsu that surpasses that of the average captains. Naruto, we sincerely apologize for our doubts regarding your capabilities. We should not have allowed Aizen's illusions to serve as a justification for our lack of awareness. Lack of knowledge? Yoruichi let out a soft laugh. We must express our gratitude to Aizen for his cunning manipulation of you. He assisted us in acquiring numerous new insights that we might not have encountered as Shinigami. Naruto displayed a smile. The greater your knowledge. Yoruichi delicately traced her claws along his thighs before shifting her attention to Kazuki. I was not mistaken. His body transitions from Kishi to Reishi when he transforms into a hollow. Kazuki developed the Reishi Henken Ki, a device designed to convert Kishi into Reishi and vice versa. Naruto accomplished the same outcome independently. Kazuki acknowledged this observation. Transitioning from Shinigami to hollow to Quincy. Naruto-san presents a unique situation. Naruto assumed his hollow form and crossed his arms. Regarding the information I committed to providing, I am aware of certain aspects of Aizen's strategies and his ultimate objective. Kazuki's eyes expanded in surprise. How did you manage to? Please refrain from inquiring about the details. Aizen seeks to acquire the Hogyoku that you currently hold. The item is essential to his plans for the creation of Okayan. He is pursuing the key to the royal palace. A quiet exchange occurred between Kazuki and Yoruichi, their eyes reflecting a shared understanding. We did not anticipate it to be Okayan, Yoruichi stated. Naruto, could you clarify Aizen Sosuke's intentions regarding the royal palace? I am uncertain, just as you are, Naruto stated. I fulfilled my obligations as agreed. Kazuki-san, it is important that you fulfill your responsibilities. Kazuki retreated slightly, gripping his Zanpakuto firmly. I made a commitment. How may I assist you today? I require accommodation. Approved. A distinguished hollow such as yours is invited to my underground chamber. Kazuki warmly received Naruto, who possessed extensive knowledge regarding the three major races, Hollow, Shinigami, and Quincy. This is not solely for my benefit. Naruto declined with a shake of his head. During my time in Hueco Mundo, I established some valuable connections. Could you please create some Ryotsu concealing Gigai for them? I have not created one for hollows yet, but I am willing to make an attempt. However, neither you nor anyone else is permitted to consume human souls while present in this location. Greetings. They will not. Individuals lacking strength will not capture their attention. Yoruichi took a seat. Are you assembling a hollow army to seek retribution against Aizen? Naruto displayed a smile. Avoid searching for beauty in conflict. Avoid pursuing virtue in death. It is important to avoid the error of focusing solely on your own experiences. To safeguard what is essential, it is imperative to strategically eliminate the adversary from a position of advantage. He recited the Shinigami's creed, which resonated with him more profoundly than many other quotes. He proceeded to open a garganta and inserted his hand within. I will go and gather my friends, looking forward to our upcoming meeting. He entered the garganta, immediately perceiving Yoruichi unleashing a surge of Riryoku. He turned to observe Yoruichi soaring into the diminishing garganta. Kazuki's attention remained fixed on the diminishing portal, a subtle smirk playing at the corners of his lips. He was not at all surprised by Yoruichi's impulsive action. She consistently demonstrated a strong inclination for exploration. Naruto's friends or Naruto had piqued her interest. The vast expanse of Hueco Mundo presented an irresistible allure for her. Understanding her motivations, however, was comparable to searching for a solitary cloud in an expansive sky. There she goes on her own, Tessai remarked, shaking his head in resignation. He then directed a questioning gaze towards Kazuki. Was that the appropriate trade-off? Was the information a valid rationale for concealing multiple Arrancars from the Soul Society? Kazuki raised 2 fingers in response. Please take into account 2 important matters, Tessai. Firstly, Hueco Mundo offers greater protection from the Seireii compared to our shop. I have a strong suspicion that they are evading a force in Hueco Mundo that may be more formidable than Naruto himself. Tessai's eyes expanded behind his rectangular glasses. The idea of a hollow possessing a greater Ryotsu than Naruto was, at the very least, unsettling. Who might that be? I am uncertain. What is the second point? Certain investments may seem risky in the short term, yet they can provide unforeseen returns at unexpected moments. Naruto-san represents a strategic investment opportunity. Securing Naruto's friendship could potentially provide a significant advantage in his covert conflict with Aizen. Despite being exiled from the Seireii, he retained the essence of a Shinigami within him. Safeguarding Seireii and maintaining the balance will consistently be his responsibility. As he processed this information, Tessai absent-mindedly twirled his mustache. I continued to struggle with fully understanding the essence of Naruto. Kazuki observed Tessai's confusion with a lighthearted chuckle. Concerning Naruto-san, I have a suspicion regarding the origin of his transformation. He encountered similarly perplexing matters upon his arrival at Shiwan Mansion. It was inevitable that he would come to comprehend every facet of his confusion. Could you please clarify what it is? I will provide information once I am completely confident, Kazuki responded, standing to brush off the sleeves of his haori. Pardon me. I must prepare accommodations for our new allies. I would like to delay my tasks. Kazuki anticipated Yoruichi's actions, whereas Naruto did not share the same expectation. The black cat commenced walking alongside him, her tail swaying in a measured rhythm. She behaved as though she anticipated him to comprehend her intentions independently. Shiwan-san, we hollows hold a principle. Do not enter another's garganta unless you are ready for a fight to the death. You are a century too early to challenge me, Yoruichi replied with a light laugh, her golden eyes scanning the expansive void around them. This is my initial experience within a garganta. The environment is rather uninteresting. Throughout her long life, she had never explored a garganta, the enigmatic travel route available solely to hollows. Hueco Mundo is no better than this, he remarked with a casual shrug. Shall we proceed with urgency? I am looking forward to meeting my friends. I am equally eager to make their acquaintance. She clearly showed an interest in his associates. They moved swiftly across the garganta until Yoruichi suddenly stopped him with a gentle kick to his shin. Cease. I can perceive your Ryotsu beyond this point. He refined his senses, identifying a subtle trace of residual Ryotsu. Indeed, it appears to be distributed widely. Individuals are generally more attuned to the Ryotsu of others than to their own, Yoruichi clarified. You have been in the living world for a week. Could you explain why your Ryotsu remains at such a high concentration? That is likely the location where I transformed into an Arrancar. He flexed his knuckles and extended his wings. Let's proceed from this location. They tore through the fabric of space, emerging into the stark, desolate landscape of Hueco Mundo. Yoruichi turned her head in various directions, observing the striking difference from the lively human realm. Under a deep black sky, the vast white landscape extended, highlighted by a prominent moon. The realm of hollows, characterized by an unsettling silence and stark desolation, presented a sight she had not encountered in some time. A realm suited for beings recognized as hollows. Certainly. As Naruto searched for Haribel's Ryotsu, he identified a strong presence nearby, an Ajuka's, presumably comparable to Apache. He set aside the Ajukas from his considerations and continued his search. They're hiding their Ryotsu, but I can still sense it. He was relieved that they were safe. He merely had to go out and look for them. He turned to Yoruichi with a sly smile. I am going to utilize Sonido immediately. Shiwan-san, are you confident you can keep up? Who do you think you're speaking to? Flash Goddess Yoruichi cannot be outdone by a simple Vasto Lord. She was little rusty from decades of lazing in her cat shape. Her quickness, which she valued highly, had not deteriorated to the point where it could be matched by a young guy like him. Naruto's grin broadened as he realized his query had gotten under her skin. Let's put that to the test, then. With a loud snap, he moved ahead utilizing Soni. After becoming an Arrancar, his physique became stronger, allowing him to utilize Sonido more effectively. He took a brief peek over his shoulder. Yoruichi's cat flashed huge distances, easily tracking him from the ground. Yoruichi exposed her fangs. Impressive, very impressive. Despite being far from her prime, Naruto's speed was among the greatest in the Seirei. As the overpowering Ryotsu dissipated, a centaur-like hollow slowly emerged from her hiding spot. A set of piercing eyes behind her mask focused on the fading silver and white figures in the distance. One of their Ryotsu signatures had been so powerful that it nearly stopped her heart as she slept. The same ancient Ryotsu lingered throughout this region. Vasto Lord, this was the second time she had caught encounters with such a menacing hollow in this same location. Just the day before, a group of powerful hollows had spent a long period here, and suddenly another powerful presence has appeared. She clutched the double-sided lance. Why are so many powerful hollows gathered here? What is happening in Hueco Mundo? The prospect of an approaching battle lurking behind this unnerving quiet terrified her. Nell 2 Odelschwank couldn't get rid of the uneasy impression that a conflict was developing under the eerie stillness. War represented strife, which inevitably resulted in death, anguish, and suffering. As an Ajukas, she could only watch as these powerful Vasto Lord battled each other like monsters. I need to leave. With that resolution, she raced quickly over the harsh white desert. After a few minutes of fast travel, She arrived at her destination. A cave leading to a refuge built into a mountain. Sensing her familiar presence, a slew of hollows sprang out of the cavernous walls, greeting Nell with charming sounds. She towered above these small hollows. Her lips trembled beneath her mask before breaking out in a little smile that no one could see. "I'm back." Their exuberant reactions filled the air with a kaleidoscope of noises, each more charming than the previous. Cats, dogs, bunnies, and even birds, each of them was completely vulnerable and helpless. They were so weak that even a small amount of Vasto Lord's Ryotsu could completely destroy them. Despite their frailty, these hollows lived without food or Riryoku. The ambient reishi of Hueco Mundo fed their spirits amply, as if fate had decreed their survival against all difficulties. For years, she had dedicated herself to protecting this town of smaller hollows. This self-imposed mission to protect them from other hollows had given her a feeling of purpose. A cause that motivated her every day. While she couldn't prevent the Vasto Lord from battling, she could protect the community with her own Ryotsu. Harabel and her friends, unbeknownst to Naruto, were caught up in their own tumultuous situation. Nestled deep beneath a massive subterranean cave, the five women were unexpectedly silent, with a melancholy aura enveloping them all. Chiruchi swooped out of the big hole over their heads to survey the area. She returned to the cave just a few moments later. "I can't sense him anywhere." "Neither can I," Harabel acknowledged, her fingers tenderly caressing the enigmatic egg clasped securely to her bosom, as if its very existence provided some comfort. "It could be a trap to lure us out." Chiruchi's eyebrows furrowed in alarm. "It absolutely is." Despite their increased vigilance, they had failed to see their pursuer, who had been trailing them for over a day. Instead, they felt a powerful Ryotsu closing in on them. King Baraggan had his own Ryotsu. They took off at their fastest possible pace as soon as they recognized it. Mila Rose pulled her Zanpakuto across the grainy white sand, fastening it to the wall. "TCH. This hide-and-seek game is smothering me. I just want to beat him to death." She was arrogant and vicious, as expected of a lioness. Her Urankurization merely heightened such characteristics. Crushing Baraggan was more important than her own life. Apache sat near the wall, her eyes fixed on it in a stupor. "If only we had that power." Harabel shakes her head. "We'll beat Baraggan, but not today. Let us keep." Her attention was drawn to the egg, and she came to a sudden stop. It jerked abruptly, which was uncommon given its placid behavior during the previous several days. "Is it about to hatch?" As Harabel sought to interact with the egg, a surge of Ryotsu emanated from it. She couldn't help but recollect Naruto's expression when he sensed the Ryotsu. Sung Sun giggled quietly, her eyes flashing with pleasure. "Oh, how sweet. Did it sense Naruto and begin transmitting signals?" "The hatchling is calling out to its mother." Mila Rose giggled, the egg's antics lifting her spirits. "I still can't believe Skull's Zanpakuto is a literal egg." Apache stabbed Mila Rose's hand with her horn. "Stop calling him mother, call him father if you must." "Why is that bothering you?" Apache turned her head away from the inquiry. "It's inappropriate to call a man mother. Harabel-sama will agree with me." Harabel was too preoccupied with the egg to pay any attention to her surroundings. Chiruchi also looked at the egg with keen eyes. An uncomfortable sensation gnawed at her. "Harabel, it's practically on the same level as Jillian. Stop before it reaches Ajuka's." Harabel rubbed the egg and said many words of reassurance. Despite her attempts, she was unable to prevent the egg from damaging their location. She shook her head as she looked blankly at Chiruchi. "I don't think it understands us." Chiruchi's cheeks flushed with annoyance as she scratched her forehead. "Blast. We may have to abandon the egg." "What?" Apache was outraged by the statement right away. Her snarl echoed throughout the cave, evocative of a ravenous wolf. "Are you stupid? This is Naruto's Zanpakuto. Do you want him to become like you?" But we're left with no other choice. Sung Sun gently nudged Chiruchi's back with her tail. "There is always a choice. Look, there's another route we could take." Following Sung Sun's gaze, they were pulled to a dauntingly steep stairway descending further into the underground labyrinth. Mila Rose squinted, attempting to penetrate the heavy curtain of darkness. "Where does this lead? What if it is a dead end?" Some Sun sneered at Mila Rosa's hesitancy. Then we pass through the Garganta into the living world. We have a better chance there than battling Baraggan. Haribel considered her choices for a time before deciding to follow Some Sun's advice. She stood up and summoned the group. Let's go. Hold on, Chiruchi intervened. I remember what lies beneath Hueco Mundo. The forest of Manos. A forest full of Jillians and Ajukas. Apache's eyes sparkled brightly. Let's go. She was on the verge of becoming a Vasto Lord, and she knew it in her bones. Consuming a lot of Jillians would surely help her makeover. She couldn't contain her excitement at the idea of achieving Haribel's level of power. I will not be ineffective against Baraggan. Some Sun looked behind Apache's ambitions. The deer was like an open book. Haribel-sama, move Chiruchi and Mila Rose ahead. I need to talk to Apache. Huh? Haribel, astonished, gave Apache a stern look. Since Naruto's departure, their relationship had not been going well. Apache, now alone with Some Sun, peered attentively at the snake. What is it? Don't be consumed by your urges, Some Sun said quietly. Naruto cares more about your heart than your power. That is all I will say. It was Some Sun's attempt to prevent Apache from devolving into a regular hollow, consuming others for power. A road that may pit her against Haribel. Apache stopped briefly before lowering her head. I guarantee it will only last till I become Vasto Lord. I am very near. I want it, Some Sun. I want it so bad. Apache's eyes were filled with a mad obsession, an intense need for strength. Apache's goal was not only to become a Vasto Lord. She also wanted to show to Naruto that she could keep her promises. It was about pride. Some Sun shared the aim, but not declaring it as freely as Apache. I understand. Just don't be overly pushy in front of Haribel-sama. I understand. I'm not denying Haribel's beliefs. This is a critical time for us, and we will need all of our strength. Desperate times require desperate means. I got you if Haribel comes to you about the sacrifices, Some Sun teased. In exchange, help me become Vasto Lord after you're won. Apache lifted her head, wide-eyed at Some Sun. The snake's tongue flashed as her pupils contracted. Do you think I'm joking? Some Sun shakes her head. I am serious, Apache. I refuse to be the group's weakest link. I'll try. I just have to get Naruto to make the same promise, and we're good to go. A shadow claimed the peak of a desolate hill less than a mile from the subterranean. His intimidating physique was enhanced by a burnt orange afro and pronounced sideburns. This was Gantenbane Mosqueda, the seventh Espada. His unusual mask remains were shaped like sunglasses, with 4 teeth extending above each eye, allowing him to see his surroundings via a center blue star embedded into the white plate. The focus of his observation was Haribel's group. Turning his imposing figure, he spoke to Baraggan. The skeletal ruler of hollows sat upon a throne of bones, exuding a foreboding presence. I have detected the presence of a new Ajukas among them. Fascinating, Baraggan remarked. The location of the second Vasto Lord remains undisclosed. He had intentionally utilized his formidable Ryotsu to compel Haribel's decision, ensuring she would align with her Vasto Lord aide, the individual who had motivated Haribel's resistance to his authority. It has not occurred as of now. Sir, may I offer a suggestion? Inquired the blonde attendant positioned behind him. What is it that you need, Avana? Why don't we apprehend them and extract the information? She was weary of pursuing her target. She aimed to seize and consume them. Baraggan dismissed her idea with a nonchalant gesture of his skeletal hand. You are underestimating Haribel. She would prefer to accept death than to betray her people. She is an unwise individual, much like yourself. Baraggan may have a following, yet Avana emerged as his most dedicated adherent after enduring his harsh methods. I have the ability to make her speak, Avana stated, her eyes gleaming behind her white mask. I assure you, my lord. My aspect of death possesses the ability to influence her will. Could you please provide the submission? Baraggan rested his chin on his bony knuckles. Is it compatible with a Vasto Lord? Avana declined with a shake of her head. However, Tear Haribel is not solitary. Hey. Please proceed. I will sever ties with you if you do not succeed. Avana assumed a kneeling position on the ground. Thank you, my lord. I will ensure the safe return of Tyr Haribel along with the necessary information. I will not allow you to dismiss me." With a swift tap of her feet, she took flight, heading towards Haribel's location. Baraggan observed her diminishing silhouette before redirecting his attention to Gantenbane. Ensure her safety. Avana possessed formidable abilities, however, they required an excessive amount of her Ryotsu. She was an asset to him, one that he was not ready to part with just yet. Gantenbane replied while kneeling before his lord. "I will protect her with utmost dedication." After their departure, Baraggan remained in solitude, quietly observing the desolate landscape. Although he longed for the excitement of combat, he found himself lacking motivation, his vigor diminished by the relentless pursuit throughout Hueco Mundo. Time elapsed as he remained seated. Suddenly, he detected 2 Ryotsu signatures, each exceeding the strength of an Ajuka's. Interestingly, one of these spiritual pressures was not a hollow, but rather a Shinigami. Baraggan observed the advancing figures, his grip instinctively tightening around his scythe-like axe. He had not encountered such impressive Ryotsu in some time. From a hollow and a soul reaper, no less. A solution to his boredom arrived at his doorstep. Naruto stopped, eyes squared on Baraggan. Both him and Dordoni had guessed wrong. Baraggan didn't send any espada, he was so bored he left his kingdom to root out the rebels. What's even bizarre was Haribel's location. He could feel Haribel and others underneath him. Their Ryotsu was so faint as if they were hundreds of meters underground. Did they take refuge underground from Baraggan? Intelligent women. Meanwhile, Yoruichi sensed Baraggan's Ryotsu targeting her, causing her fur to bristle. No hollow, aside from Naruto, had posed this significant level of threat to her. She experienced moments of reflection as she observed Baraggan's appearance. Is he not Baraggan Louisenbairn, the King of Hollows? Although there may be additional hollows that share a similar appearance, none can match the Ryotsu of a senior captain. Naruto cast her a look of astonishment. Indeed. He is the reason I left this place. He poses a significant challenge. What is prompting you to prepare for a confrontation with him? She almost yelled when she saw him cracking his knuckles in preparation for a fight. Naruto spread his wings and continued stretching his arms. He is coming to start the fight, but I'll finish it. Besides, do you think he will let us leave now? Beholding Baraggan in person, he could sense their Ryotsu to be on the same level. Irankarization had improved his already vast Ryotsu. I wish to witness the confrontation between oppression and senescence. Given Naruto's rapid regeneration in Sonito, Baraggan would find it impossible to eliminate him, even if he desired to do so. Confronting Baraggan in a direct encounter presented an ideal chance to evaluate the full potential of his Arankar form. Upon Baraggan's arrival, he extended a hand in acknowledgement. Greetings, Baraggan. Baraggan directed his formidable Ryotsu towards Naruto. Collaborating with a Shinigami. That is quite unfortunate for you. Naruto displayed a confident smirk. Yoruichi, will you allow him to speak to you in such a manner? Greetings. I was exiled from the Seirei long ago. His words do not disturb me. Disregarding her cad joke, he shifted his attention to Baraggan. Please inform me, self-proclaimed ruler of Hueco Mundo, will I be regarded as a Godslayer should I succeed in ending your life? Baraggan erupted in laughter. Ant, do you intend to challenge me? Merely attaining the status of a Vasto Lord Arankar does not position you as a contender against the God King. How amusing. Then let it be I who forges the way for ants to achieve greatness. In a remarkable display of speed, Naruto surged forward, reappearing just a breath behind Baraggan. However, his movements were immediately hindered, resembling the effort of navigating through a bog. The slow field surrounding Baraggan effectively neutralized the advantages of melee combatants. Naruto was compelled to withdraw using Sonito. That ability is quite bothersome. Engaging in close combat with Baraggan proved ineffective as long as he enveloped himself in his senescence. Baraggan existed within a time dilation field that diminished the speed of all entities within its vicinity. Engaging him in direct combat was a perilous decision. Naruto displayed a look of discontent. Is it solely designed to shield him from attacks, or does it possess additional, concealed functionalities? He contemplated, a whirlwind of theories swirling in the depths of his mind as he readied himself to deliver another incisive argument. Advancing with remarkable speed, he halted at the edge of Baraggan's distorted temporal domain, a dynamic Sero pulsating ominously in his hand. The Sero ray and Baraggan engaged in a monumental clash, resulting in a brilliant eruption of intense light and dynamic energy, with the explosion's force generating shockwaves that radiated outward. As the tumultuous scene calmed, Baraggan reappeared, enveloped in a veil of deep purple-black energy. His formidable Ryotsu and senescence had withstood the full force of Sero's impact. Baraggan directed his axe towards Naruto. These unconstructive attacks will not have an impact on me. I hold the title of the God of Death. Everything ages and decays under my command. My power is the only absolute law in this world. Yoruichi let out a snort of derision at Baraggan's arrogant declaration. General Yamamoto will wipe the floor with you. Baraggan redirected his attention towards Yoruichi. He and his captain entourage barely sealed Ikomakitamoy, the only hollow who came close to rivaling my divinity. If your captain is as powerful as you say, bring him to my kingdom. I'll slaughter him. Yoruichi had no idea about the fight between General Yamamoto and Ikomakitamoy. However, she was only just approaching 300 years of age, a considerable span for mortals, yet a trivial figure in the Seirei's extensive history. Nevertheless, you will be reduced to ashes in the general's flames. Naruto, you cannot defeat this opponent by remaining passive. Naruto extended his arm towards Baraggan, who remained poised, anticipating the impending assault. The ruler of Hueco Mundo possessed absolute confidence in the defensive capabilities of his senescence. A sudden surge of blue Ryotsu enveloped Baraggan, posing a significant challenge to the dark purple aura that surrounded him. Baraggan simply gestured with his hand. Suffer the dying breath, Respira. A shroud of black-purple energy exploded outward from Baraggan, expanding ominously around him. Naruto darted to Yoruichi, seized her, and raced a safe distance away from the deadly reach of Baraggan's Respira. The spreading breath gnawed at everything it touched. Luckily, the barren landscape of Hueco Mundo remained untouched. The white sands of Hueco Mundo were the dust of fallen Manos, and the skeletal trees were mere surface twigs of underground forests. Let go of me. Yoruichi wriggled out of his grasp, snarling. Is that ability dangerous? Extremely. The self-proclaimed God King fixed his gaze on Naruto. Even Reishi is unable to withstand the effects of time's passage. Reishi-based abilities hold no effectiveness against me. It seems you take great pleasure in showcasing your abilities, don't you? Naruto displayed a confident smirk. Numerous monarchs met their demise due to their imprudent arrogance. Would you like to find yourself in a similar situation as they are? I am above all the kings. I hold the esteemed title of the God King of Hueco Mundo. You are insignificant in comparison to my stature. Baraggan's sentence remained incomplete as an overwhelming pressure descended upon him. His powerful Ryotsu struggled against the pressure, as his temporal distortion field failed to mitigate the reishi-laden air of Hueco Mundo. It felt as though the very world was intent on constraining him. This technique was the one that had previously rendered Jillian's to a gruesome state. It involved the precise manipulation of Baraggan's internal air pressure to an almost negligible level. The outcome: a significant impact that could have resulted in injuries to Baraggan. Naruto could have done the same to Baraggan's time dilation field if he understood its inner workings. With Baraggan's immense Riryoku, he knew he couldn't brute force through the time field. Baraggan waved his hand, releasing more Riryoku to strengthen his Hiero. HMPH. Impressive technique. Is this all you have? I'm starting to feel bored. As his words fell, a dense layer of Respira surrounded him. Axe clenched tightly in his hand, he vanished, materializing behind Naruto in the blink of an eye. A single sweep of his weapon unleashed enough Respira to wipe out an army of hollows. The logical course of action would have been to use Sonido and flee. But Naruto was not a creature of logic. He reached out through the fog of death and gripped the blade of Baraggan's axe scythe. His arm withered and disintegrated until only skeletal remains were visible. His regeneration spurred into action, reassembling flesh over bone, sparking a horrific cycle of decomposition and renewal that made Yoruichi's skin crawl. Still, you could see a calm determination in Naruto's eyes, with a slight smile on his lips. Baraggan felt a nagging sense of danger creeping up on him, but he just couldn't pinpoint where it was coming from. He casually brushed off the thought that Naruto might have an ability that surpasses senescence. That's pretty funny. I didn't quite get your way of thinking, my friend. What are you hoping to achieve by understanding my Zanpakuto? While Baraggan tried to pull out his weapon, Naruto's bony fingers held on tight. A wave of blue Ryotsu flowed from his fading hand, enveloping the axe side. Say goodbye to your Zanpakuto, Baraggan. When Naruto spoke, he clenched his bony hand even tighter. He didn't hit hard enough to hurt a low-ranking hollow, but still, the Zanpakuto in his hand shook and then broke apart. Baraggan's massive Zanpakuto was placed outside the time field, which allowed Naruto to catch the overconfident king off guard and break it with his oppression. A cool breeze brushed against Naruto's neck, making him quickly pull back with a sonito. Baraggan unleashed a massive wave of Respira that stretched out almost 500 meters, packing a deadly punch. It seemed like someone had really gotten on a god's bad side. That's just not acceptable. That's just not acceptable. That's just not acceptable. Baraggan's voice echoed across the barren landscape, brimming with fierce anger. We're definitely going to talk about this. You really need to make up for the disrespect shown to the deity of Hueco Mundo and be ready to deal with what comes next. Naruto felt a deep sense of satisfaction as he watched Baraggan suffer. He had to pull away from his close friends because of Baraggan's threats, even taking the big risk of facing Kazuki Urahara. How could he not enjoy this satisfying revenge? Baraggan chased after Naruto with fierce determination, throwing out huge amounts of Respira his way. Usually, Baraggan just couldn't match Naruto's speed. He wouldn't be able to catch Naruto's mix of Sonito and wings while he's all worked up. Naruto's moves were super unpredictable while Baraggan was in his crazy state. That material could really be a problem. Could you please ease up a bit on the intensity when it comes to pursuing me? Stop being. Stop being. Stop being. You little bug. I'm here to help. What do you need assistance with today? Yoruichi observed the scene with a playful spark in her golden eyes. This person is really funny. Baraggan Louisenbairn, the most powerful hollow noted in the Seirei database, was controlled with such skill it felt like he was a puppet on strings. No Shinigami would believe her story unless they were taken to this barren wasteland to see it for themselves. She really didn't need to worry about Naruto's possible demise at all. He took apart Baraggan's Zanpakuto without breaking a sweat, really taking away a big chunk of the King of Hollow's power. Popcorn sounds like the perfect choice right now. She showed the same kind of mischief as her childhood buddy. Baraggan's anger wasn't just about his Zanpakuto being destroyed. It was more about who did it that really got to him. The hollow, which he had once brushed off and looked down on, had now turned the tables, making him the target of mockery. His pride took a hit, and because of that, he felt like he had to take Naruto out. He really knew how to get under Baraggan's skin, and that just made Baraggan even angrier. Even though Baraggan was really furious, he managed to keep himself in check and stopped his rampage before it drained all his Riryoku, which was a bummer for the opportunistic Naruto. Noticing Baraggan's hesitation, he took a moment to pause and shot a knowing smirk in Baraggan's direction from afar. Looks like we can't overlook the little ant right now. Baraggan's fists clenched, feeling that familiar absence of his axe in his hands. What a cheeky little thing. That's pretty funny. Yoruichi walked up to him, looking calm and collected. You're having a good time. I'd probably do the same thing if I were in your shoes. I've been worried about this person for quite a while. It's really nice to see him like this. Yoruichi turned her gaze to Baraggan, who was hovering above them, wrapped in the mist of his Respira. His quiet, intense anger was a bit unsettling in different ways. Enjoying what you do is great, but it's also really important to see the task through to the end. Now that we're allies, could you please look after him for me, Shiwan-san? Even though Baraggan's Zanpakuto was broken, the fight had hit a standstill. Naruto still hadn't figured out a way to deal with Baraggan's time field, and he just didn't have the firepower needed to take Baraggan down for good. He figured out what Baraggan's time field really did. It slowed down the aging process of his aspect of death, letting him take on the role of the god of death and senescence. If the field were to be turned off, Baraggan would be overwhelmed by his own power, kind of like how he ended up falling during his fight with Soifan and that pink-haired vizard whose name he just couldn't remember. Yoruichi let out a quick hiss. Could you hold off on the jokes for a bit? As a melee fighter, I definitely pose a real challenge for Baraggan. I don't have your ability to regenerate and fight off his decay mist. She was bound to lose against Baraggan's incredibly strong ability. Naruto realized that she might actually do worse than Soifan if she faced off against Baraggan. Soifan's Bankai really showed off its impressive destructive power as a ranged weapon. So, go ahead and use the Bankai form of your Zanpakuto. He showed curiosity about Yoruichi's Zanpakuto, even though it wasn't featured in the manga or anime. Even if it wasn't super powerful, you really shouldn't underestimate a Bankai. She shook her head, clearly not approving. It's not enough when you're up against a Vasto Lord, let alone an Arrancar. It's worth mentioning that she had a mutual agreement with her Zanpakuto spirit. She was way better at Shunko and Hakuda than her Zanpakuto's Bankai release. Even her unmotivated Zanpakuto spirit agreed with that feeling. Looks like Kazuki is supposed to come up with a solution, Yoruichi said. Do you think we should go back and ask him to show us something from his lab? I'm not leaving without my friends. You can go if you want. I like to stick around, I've got an idea I'd like to share. I'm not really sure how effective it might be. I think it's definitely worth a shot. What's the worst thing that could happen? Yoruichi and Naruto were having a low-key chat, tweaking the strategies that the clever cat had suggested. It seems like Baraggan's presence has been missed, or maybe he's just not seen as a big threat anymore. Baraggan felt a bit uneasy seeing the Hollow and Shinigami working together, almost like they were allies. He lifted his chin with confidence, sizing up Naruto from his higher vantage point. Have you finished up the strategic planning we talked about? Absolutely. Just be careful, Yoruichi said. There's just one chance. Let's get it done today. The strategy had a 50% chance of working on the first try, but if Baraggan managed to stick around for another day, that dropped to 0. It's just like Naruto to pull off this reckless strategy, right? Naruto recognized Baraggan and moved forward with a strong sense of purpose. Are we ready to kick off the second round, sir? He used Sonido and fired another Sero Ray right at Baraggan's face, but it was quickly worn away by the Respira. Naruto kept going strong, firing off a quick flurry of Sero attacks. Every blue explosive ray took in little bits of Respira from Baraggan. Even though Baraggan's Riryoku is incredibly powerful, it still has its limits, just like all hollows do. He was using his boosted Riryoku recovery to wear down Baraggan's energy. This isn't going to get us anywhere, Baraggan said, appearing behind Naruto with a swift Sonido. He quickly waved his hand, pulling a wave of Respira towards himself. Get worse. Naruto quickly disappeared with Sonido just in time to avoid Respira's hit. The person who calls themselves the god of Hueco Mundo is dealing with some pretty big challenges. Thinking about retirement is a good idea. I'm going to handle Hueco Mundo even better than you did before. People always love a good laugh. Baraggan chuckled in response. If today happens to be my last, you'll soon be chased by a whole army of hollow. Baraggan relied on his mistresses and his loyal friend, Avana, to help him get his revenge. Avana's drive to go after Naruto's cherished friends was just another twist in the story. Naruto raised his right hand and made a sharp cut across his palm. He shaped his hand into a claw, and a small blue orb crackled to life, warping the fabric of space with its intense energy. He recalled that it was one of the Sero techniques that Grimmjow used in his fight against Ichigo. Are you using Gran Rey Sero on me? Baraggan brushed off the situation, his eyes locked onto the destructive Sero. It's not really effective either. Sure, you might have messed up my Zanpakuto, but there's no way you can shake my faith in the divine. Naruto snuck up behind Baraggan with a quick Sonido and fired off a Sero right at him from close range. I really wish you weren't around anymore. Baraggan stood firm, shifting his Respira to wrap around the Grand Sero Ray without a second thought. Naruto saw the chance he had been waiting for. He quickly shifted into his human form and rushed over to Baraggan's unguarded front, which was only protected by the time dilation field. Baraggan watched Naruto, noticing how his Ryotsu signature had changed from that of a hollow to something more like the many humans Baraggan had eaten before. He just couldn't bring himself to consider that his views might be off base. Can you tell me who you are? Instead of satisfying Baraggan's curiosity, he called forth 2 katanas made of pure reishi. The higher levels of reishi in Hueco Mundo made it easier for him to gather reishi, which boosted the power of his spirit weapons. He moved ahead, stepping into Baraggan's time dilation field, and made a sharp slash across Baraggan's chest. Baraggan quickly used Sonido to pull back, but he suddenly felt a chill creeping up his back. He pointed his Respira behind him, but Naruto suddenly appeared in front of him, using Hirenkyaku, which is the Quincy version of Shunpo and Sonido. Quincy's methods turned out to be way more effective against hollows, especially when you think about how a hollow could be a real danger to a Quincy. Respira could have really done a number on the Quincy offense, but Baraggan was a bit thrown off by Naruto's unique skills. He wasn't going to face any of Naruto's attacks head-on. The king of Hueco Mundo kept using Sonido, but Naruto managed to catch up to him in no time, almost like he could sense his Ryotsu signature and follow him effortlessly. With the threat of extermination looming, Baraggan stopped using Sonido to dodge attacks and decided to use it to retreat to a safer spot instead. So, the strategic contest wrapped up when Baraggan ran out of Riryoku, leaving him unable to create more Respira or use Sonido. Naruto skillfully maneuvered both katanas through the time dilation field, each one finding its mark in Baraggan's hollow eye socket with impressive accuracy. To boost security, he grabbed a crossbow and fired off a dozen bolts at Baraggan, hitting different parts of his body with those blue projectiles. Reverting to his hollow form, he regarded Baraggan with a smirk. "I have achieved the status of a Godslayer." Baraggan displayed a contemptuous expression. "Embrace this occasion, mortal. Avana will eliminate Haribel and other associates, as well as the deceitful Chiruchi." "Excuse me? Could you please provide information about Avana?" Baraggan responded to his question with laughter until he was completely and decisively defeated by the Quincy arrows. At an earlier time, Apache expressed her frustration as yet another group of Jillians retreated. The Forest of Manos fulfilled its ominous reputation, a distorted wilderness characterized by towering trees and numerous Manos, predominantly Jillians. Despite the abundance of potential prey surrounding her, Apache had not yet secured a single Jillian for her meal. She cast a piercing gaze at the individual nestled in Haribel's embrace. The egg emanated a Ryotsu that had reached the Ajuka's rank, creating an unseen aura of fear that caused any nearby Jillians to retreat in haste. "Could this egg please pause for 10 minutes? Some Sun's laughter echoed through the shadowy forest, highlighting her companion's misfortune. "Destiny does not desire for you to surpass me." Haribel halted mid-stride, her gaze instinctively directed towards the imposing ceiling enveloped in shadows. "I can sense his Ryotsu in that location. He may be engaged in a confrontation with Baraggan." Apache's eyes widened. "We should proceed with our return. I must inform you that a return will not be permitted." A sudden voice interrupted their discussion, infusing a lighthearted tone into the exchange. A blonde woman, the owner of the voice, descended gracefully before them, her face obscured by a hollow mask. Her humanoid silhouette and her immense Ryotsu served as a clear indication of her formidable power. She was a Vasto Lord. Haribel positioned herself in front of the group, adopting a defensive posture. "Could you please identify yourself?" "Avana, the esteemed servant of the God King." She regarded Chiruchi with a keen and discerning look. "You will all face the consequences of defying the God King. Even the disloyal Chiruchi Sanderwichi." Chiruchi replied with a low growl, her teeth clenched in frustration. "Curse you. I did not betray Baraggan. My allegiance was never with him." "That does not excuse your transgression of turning away from our God." Chiruchi responded, "You did not exhibit this behavior when you declared yourself the Queen of Hueco Mundo. What actions did Baraggan take to influence your thoughts in this manner?" Mila Rose inhaled sharply. "Sovereign of Hueco Mundo? Is this the woman in question?" Chiruchi acknowledged with a serious nod. She was once the most powerful female hollow until Haribel ascended to the rank of Vasto Lord. She led a group of women who regarded her as a source of inspiration. How did she transition from that to this subservient individual? Chiruchi responded with nothing more than a shrug. "I am uncertain." Avana dismissed their exchange with a scoff. "Lord Baraggan demonstrated my inadequacies in comparison. He imparted the essential principle for living and succeeding: align oneself with the individual possessing greater influence." The same hierarchy is applicable to you as long as you reside in the Hueco Mundo as a hollow. Honor the Vasto Lord, for we hold a position of authority over you. Mila Rose and Chiruchi exchanged a knowing glance, smirking at Avana's comment. Those are the justifications of someone who lacks ambition, Mila Rose remarked with a chuckle. I would prefer to disengage entirely rather than adhere to something I find utterly unworthy. I am grateful that Haribel-sama came to my aid. She is a leader deserving of unwavering loyalty. Chiruchi chuckled softly. Naruto demonstrates commendable leadership qualities. At the very least, he does not exhibit arrogance regarding power and authority, unlike Baraggan. Avana's Ryotsu surged intensely as she perceived the derogatory remarks directed at her lord. She grasped her throat, her head turning rigidly. This situation arises from the actions of individuals lacking insight, such as yourself, Chiruchi. You focus on past events rather than directing your attention towards future opportunities. I am pleased that Lord Baraggan refrained from subjecting himself to your misguided remarks. Era, aren't you surprisingly romantic for a hollow? Sun finally spoke, her eyes sparkling with a hint of mischief. You are nearing Apache's level of despair. Mila Rose discreetly concealed her amusement behind her hand. Sun articulating her truth for the first time in her life. Apache asserted firmly, I do not engage in romantic notions. Feeling increasingly frustrated with their conversation, Avana extended her arms, tilting her head upward toward the high ceiling. In an unexpected moment, a pair of wings, as immaculate as freshly fallen snow, emerged from her back. The abrupt emergence of wings heightened Mila Rose's awareness significantly. Could you please clarify what this is? It is highly probable that her ability, Chiruchi advised, her voice reduced to a mere whisper. I have not observed her capabilities nor have I received any information regarding them. Remain vigilant. Haribel presented the egg to Mila Rose, her expression focused intently on Avana. Retrieve the egg and return to Naruto accompanied by the group. I will handle the situation with her. Under her composed facade, Haribel was a flurry of apprehension. She sensed the intense conflict occurring overhead. The imperative to align with Naruto was compelling. However, she recognized the potential advantages that Chiruchi's insights regarding Baraggan could provide. The idea of Naruto being in peril was causing her significant distress. Mila Rose intended to confront Avana independently, yet the intimidating gaze from Haribel caused her to hesitate. Certainly, Haribel-sama. Are we departing from Haribel? Apache made a timely interjection. Shouldn't we all collaborate too? Mila Rose placed her hand over Apache's mouth. Please proceed, however, I perceive another presence. Chiruchi sensed a recognizable Ryotsu in the vicinity. With a focused gaze, she observed an orange-haired man smirking from afar. Gantenbane. He resembles an Arrancar, remarked Sun. Is there yet another Espada? Affirmative. Apache bit Mila Rose's hand, thereby liberating her mouth. He appears to lack physical strength. I am capable of handling this situation independently. We must expedite our efforts, however. Let us address this matter collaboratively. Please remember to keep me in mind. Avana swiftly extended her right wing, releasing 4 luminous feathers aimed towards Apache. Haribel skillfully intercepted the projectiles with her sword arm, yet she felt them pierce her skin. The feather disregarded her Ryotsu and directly pierced her sword arm. As she attempted to extract the feathers, they disappeared, resulting in bloody wounds on her arm. Haribel concentrated her Riryoku to mend the injuries. The process was meticulously slow as traces of Avana's Ryotsu adhered to her wounds. I need to complete this promptly. Dear Haribel, please refrain from your interference. Avana's voice resonated powerfully, anticipating Haribel's opposition to her capability. As a fellow Vasto Lord, it would be beneficial for you to align with me and your Vasto Lord companion. Become a member of Espada, and Lord Baraggan will overlook your past misdeeds. Haribel regarded the alluring proposal with a discerning gaze. Baraggan possesses an abundance of pride that prevents him from taking such actions. Lord Baraggan stated it himself. It is imperative that we safeguard each Vasto Lord to deter any thoughts of invasion by the Shinigami, Avana stated, pausing to indicate the hollows advancing towards Gantenbane. The Vasto Lord will endure, yet their demise is necessary. I decline. Is that your definitive position? Avana inquired softly, her head tilting in a gesture of defiance. With a sense of dignity, she commenced her ascent, her form hovering gracefully above the desolate terrain. Her wings expanded magnificently. Ascend to your queen. Trampa, citadel of Dove. Haribel executed a series of sonito with precision and immediacy. With remarkable swiftness, she appeared before Avana and executed a precise strike at her opponent's chest with her sword arm. Blood surged forth in a vivid display as Avana's chest was violently breached. Despite the looming threat of defeat, Avana's expression conveyed a sense of triumph. She executed a powerful downward motion with her wings, creating a significant disturbance in the surrounding air. The sudden downstroke unleashed a flurry of luminous feathers, each shimmering with an unsettling brilliance in the shadows. Like a series of precise strikes, they descended upon the unaware group of Mila, Rose and others. Mila, Rose, Apache, and Chiruchi narrowly evaded the devastating attack by executing a swift maneuver using sonito. However, Sung Sun, whose sonito ability lacked refinement, was unable to evade the rapid and lethal barrage of feathers. Haribel promptly executed a swift sonito, positioning herself to intercept the incoming projectiles and creating a protective barrier between the lethal feathers and the unprotected Sung Sun. Cyan Sung Sun observed Haribel providing protection from the downpour of feathers. Nevertheless, Haribel was unable to fully protect her substantial form. A few feathers penetrated and compromised her scales. I am quite frustrated. Her body was overwhelmed with anguish as Avana's Ryotsu intensified around her. The distress affected her deeply, causing involuntary reactions as she lay on the unyielding ground. In a stark turn of events, all sensations faded, her eyelids growing heavy as the void began to envelop her. Please refrain from resisting. Avana's voice resonated with an unsettling quality. Your awareness will be subject to my influence. The strength of my capability is evident. Trampa, citadel of Dove. Once control is lost, escape becomes impossible, akin to a dove perpetually confined within a cage. An undesirable ability that I have not employed since I dedicated my life to Lord Baraggan. Avana held a distinct sense of pride in her formidable influence, a remnant from her time as the self-proclaimed queen of Hueco Mundo. Meanwhile, Tyr Haribel was left in a severely compromised state after confronting Avana's ability directly. With determination evident behind her mask, she directed her gaze towards Sung Sun, who, despite her suffering, remained steadfast against Avana's power. She directed her sword arm towards Avana. I will take decisive action before it has an opportunity to take effect. In an instant, she was face to face with Avana, whose previous injury was already mending itself. Haribel did not hesitate as she struck, her sword moving towards Avana in a lethal arc. Baraggan's servant had driven her to the edge with the assault on Sung Sun, provoking her lethal resolve. Avana skillfully evaded Haribel's intense assault, strategically positioning herself behind the exposed Sung Sun. Her hand brushed against Sung Sun's scales, her gaze fixed on Haribel as if to assert her dominance over Sung Sun's existence. Your assessment is incorrect, Haribel. My influence has already permeated her essence. It is only a matter of time before she succumbs and becomes my subordinate. Is that correct? Please provide the location of your Vasto Lord acquaintance. She had no intention of causing harm or death to Haribel. Her objective was clear, to obtain the location of the Vasto Lord, even if it required the use of her undesirable ability. The existence of Ajukas held no significance for her. Sung Sun expressed defiance, unwilling to submit to anyone's authority. I will not. Avana smiled at Sung Sun's determination and playfully tapped Sung Sun. Persistent Ajukas, yield your soul to. Her statement was unexpectedly interrupted as Sung Sun responded with a swift headbutt, followed by a forceful impact of her head against the solid ground. Taking decisive action, Haribel advanced swiftly, her sword cutting through Avana's throat before she plunged it forcefully into Avana's chest and pulled it upward. By splitting her attention between regeneration and her distinct capability, she did not possess the requisite physical strength to withstand Haribel's onslaught. Avana fell to the ground, her eyes wide with disbelief. Due to the severing of her brain, she was unable to regenerate any further. Haribel redirected her focus to Sung Sun. Sung Sun repeatedly struck the ground with her head, releasing her Ryotsu in an effort to counteract Avana's overwhelming presence. The strength of a Vasto Lord exceeded Sung Sun's ability to eliminate independently. She opted for a unique method to eliminate Avana's Ryotsu from her body, by removing her mask and transforming into an Arrancar. Mila Rose left Apache and Chiruchi in the midst of their battle, hurrying to join Sung Sun. Please refrain from that, Snake. At this pace, you will break your mask. Despite this, Sung Sun continued her focused pursuit, leading Mila Rose to take physical action. Mila Rose permitted Sung Sun's head to rest on her shoulder, gently cradling Sung Sun's scales in her arms. Sung Sun, please make an effort to comprehend. It is not feasible to accomplish this without Naruto. Please allow me to pass. Her words resonated profoundly in the atmosphere. She would rather face death than endure a life as an empty vessel, lacking consciousness. Mila Rose gazed intently into Sung Sun's almost closed eyes and gently slapped her face. Let us move past this situation. You are not in a critical condition. Sung Sun, Haribel said softly, her voice resonating in the solemn environment. Continue to persevere. Naruto is en route. Skull? Oh, it appears he is arriving shortly? As Naruto observed the blood-soaked Haribel, his Ryotsu surged intensely, adrenaline coursing through him. He promptly appeared before Gantenbane and delivered a powerful punch directly to the man's face. Gantenbane's head jerked back as he collapsed to the ground, unresponsive, following a singular, powerful strike. Without acknowledging the astonished Apache, Naruto swiftly teleported to the opposite side of the area where Haribel and Mila Rose were tending to the critically injured Sung Sun. Among all the individuals in the group, Sung Sun was arguably the last person Naruto anticipated would suffer the most damage. While she may not have possessed the greatest physical strength, her intelligence was undoubtedly her most remarkable attribute. Observing her in such a challenging condition was truly distressing. At that moment, Yoruichi entered the scene, perceiving the situation as rather uncomfortable for any form of introduction. Due to her lack of familiarity with the physiological structure of a hollow, she found herself unable to offer any constructive suggestions. What occurred? Inquired Naruto as he traced his finger along Sung Sun's shell-like mask. If there are injuries, Sung Sun, please attend to that individual over there. We are pressed for time, Mila Rose asserted with urgency. Avana utilized her skill to influence Snake's consciousness. Is it possible to influence someone's thoughts? That is not possible. There remains an opportunity if she transitions into an Arrancar, Chiruchi remarked as she moved closer to Naruto, holding his egg firmly in her hands. Upon breaking your mask, you experience a rebirth, accompanied by an increase in your Riryoku. She may possess the capacity to withstand Avana's ability. Recognizing the urgency of the situation, he swiftly retracted his hand and struck Sung Sun's hollow mask with a punch. In an instant, the mask shattered, and Sung Sun was enveloped in a radiant pink glow. The atmosphere was charged with anticipation as all eyes were on Sung Sun during her transformation. Even Yoruichi, recognized for her playful demeanor, observed with a degree of fascination she had not anticipated experiencing towards a hollow. The resolve and concern of Naruto and his companions had, in some way, resonated with her, prompting her to quietly support the snake hollow. Naruto and his companions transformed her perspective on the hollow race in just one day. Hollows may possess qualities that are comparable to those of Shinigami. She ultimately grasped aspects of Kazuki's fixation on the hollow race. The completion is imminent. Apache spoke softly. Sung Sun, please present yourself at your earliest convenience. As the radiant pink glow enveloping Sung Sun diminished, all present paused in anticipation. Sung Sun manifested in her Resurrección form, mirroring the transformation previously exhibited by Mila Rose. Mila Rose possessed a captivating allure, while Sung Sun displayed a refined elegance. Her visage exuded youthfulness, complemented by her hair, a deep green hue that approached black, elegantly styled in a traditional Heim cut with long side bangs accentuating her features. A portion of her shell-like mask was positioned on the right side of her head, while the 3 pink dots on each side of her face enhanced her overall appeal. Her Resurrección form was notably more compact than her original form. She had transformed into an impressive young woman, possessing the lower body of a snake, a lamia. Upon completing her transformation, Sung Sun's pale pink eyes swiftly directed their attention towards Naruto. She advanced confidently, enveloping him in a firm embrace. Her thick tail coiled around him with a sense of ownership, as if she were determined to never release him. Her grip on him was strong, yet he hardly felt it due to his hierro. "You're back," she exclaimed, her voice filled with enthusiasm. "I appreciate your assistance." Mila Rose exhaled softly, diverting her gaze from the scene with a hint of displeasure. She experienced a slight irritation towards Sung Sun for entirely disregarding her contributions in this matter. Meanwhile, Apache observed the display with a keen eye. She felt a sense of relief for Sung Sun's survival, yet it also evoked a profound sense of melancholy within her. The undeniable truth was starting to dawn on her. She was the sole individual among them who had not yet adopted a humanoid form, despite her deep desire for it. "I will first attain the status of Vasto Lord, followed by becoming an Arrancar." Her gaze briefly assessed the two recent casualties on the field, one a Vasto Lord and the other an Arrancar of Ijuka's rank. She was convinced that partaking in them would enhance her status. Exercise patience. Avoid appearing desperate in the presence of Naruto. She needed to exercise caution to maintain her reputation in his perception. With Mila Rose and Haribel already capturing his attention, she couldn't afford to provide him with additional reasons to disregard her. Naruto offered a warm smile to Mila Rose and Apache while providing gentle comfort to Sung Sun with soothing strokes on her back. He would have experienced significant regret if anything had occurred to her as a result of his choice to leave them. "I believe that Chiruchi and Mila Rose deserve equal recognition. The suggestion to break your mask originated from Chiruchi. I took decisive action." Chiruchi smiled subtly, satisfied with the profound trust he placed in her. He acted upon her advice without any hesitation. Her confidence was swiftly overshadowed by astonishment when Haribel took the egg from her grasp. "I had no intention of eating it," she remarked with a hint of frustration. Certainly. I perceive the concerns of those around me. All issues should be attributed to Avana." Sung Sun distanced herself from Naruto and directed her attention towards Avana's motionless form a short distance away. With an expression of disdain, she directed a spit towards the corpse. "Attempting to dominate my thoughts, Baraggan's subordinate." Sung Sun experienced a sense of disappointment that she was not the individual responsible for concluding Avana's life. While she did not advocate for physical torment, she would have embraced the chance to impose emotional distress on Avana in every conceivable manner. She resolved to confront Avana later, a minor solace for all the distress endured. "Indeed, she will be reunited with her master in the afterlife," he remarked with a slight chuckle, his gaze shifting to the lifeless Avana. Baraggan's final curse was not successful. "We have successfully liberated ourselves from the looming threat in the Hueco Mundo. That is quite a relief." All individuals present, with the exception of Yoruichi, appeared taken aback by this revelation. Apache, nonetheless, experienced a range of emotions regarding the announcement of Baraggan's passing. Supporting Naruto in eliminating Baraggan would have presented an excellent opportunity to showcase her development to him. However, that opportunity was also removed from her, contributing to her increasing frustration. She exhaled sharply. "Did you not mention that you have no response to Baraggan's distinctive ability? What is the significance of that at this moment?" Mila Rose dismissed the matter with a slight shrug. "We were unable to observe the decline of the God King." Haribel's expression became more gentle. "Your efforts were commendable. I have completed the task," he acknowledged with a solemn nod. "Would you like to use my lap as a pillow later?" "Certainly." Sung Sun released Naruto from her hold and directed her attention towards Yoruichi. "Naruto, could you please introduce us to this black cat that is emanating a Shinigami's Ryotsu? I have some reservations regarding her eavesdropping on our private conversations." Sung Sun's inquiry directed the focus of the group towards Yoruichi. Even Naruto had overlooked her presence. She was far too quiet, a stark contrast to her loquacious nature when they were alone above ground. Yoruichi emitted a robust laugh. "I am a friend of Naruto from the living world. I assure you, there is no need for concern regarding my intentions to cleanse you. I am no longer fulfilling my duties in the Seirei as a Shinigami." Mila Rose was immediately triggered by his deep, masculine voice. "Is this cat male?" Is there an issue regarding my gender? Yoruichi inquired, clearly entertained. Inferring a cat's gender based solely on their appearance is an inappropriate assumption. No, I did not, Mila Rose responded promptly. I had the impression that you were female. It is difficult to envision Skull maintaining a male companion. Naruto did not inform me that all of his hollow acquaintances were women. Yoruichi observed Apache, whose gender was indiscernible from her gaze. I assume you were female. I am indeed. As Yoruichi was engaged in her self-introduction, Chiruchi discreetly advanced and launched an attack on her. However, Yoruichi skillfully evaded, causing Chiruchi to land abruptly on her face. Haha. You won't be able to catch me. Chiruchi just couldn't help but feel even more determined to catch her and give her a little pet after those taunts. Apache quietly slipped away from the group, making her way toward Avana's still body. The thick Ryotsu still hanging around her was such a strong, intoxicating scent that it made her senses spin. The smell teased her instincts, stirring up a deep sense of longing. Out of nowhere, Sung Sun glided onto the scene, her movements quick and smooth. She playfully covered her mouth with her delicate hand. Don't take my game. Avana is my snack. Apache's eyes narrowed to slits, and she felt her Ryotsu flaring up despite her efforts to keep it in check. Just give me a moment. Sung Sun glanced back and forth between Apache and Avana. Okay, you can eat her. Just remember, you owe me one for this. Since Apache was always on the receiving end of Sung Sun's antics, she knew that Sung Sun could be quite persuasive with her demands. A thick silence settled between the two hollows as they faced off, each one determined to stand their ground. Sung Sun kept her gaze steady, not backing down from her request. So, what do you think? Deal or no deal? Apache nodded, clearly intrigued by the idea of an evolution. Sounds good. Apache didn't hesitate at all. She dove right into the feast of Ryotsu in front of her. Every bite she took was packed with a fierce determination, like she was fighting for her life and chasing her dreams. It was a sight that had a strange kind of beauty, a display of raw, primal nature happening right before our eyes. Apache tossed her head back and let out a chilling roar. It wasn't a triumphant roar. It was more like a shout of frustration and anger. Sung Sun let out a gentle sigh as she observed her companion. Even though Baraggan's issue was sorted out, Apache's quest for inner peace was still very much alive and kicking. She devoured both corpses and even felt a noticeable increase in strength, but there was no evolution into a Vasto Lord. Why isn't it happening? Apache murmured softly, her gaze lost in the emptiness around her. I'm getting stronger, but why can't I just become a Vasto Lord? Sung Sun rolled up her really long sleeve and reached out to give Apache's head a gentle pat. Us hollows, we've got quite the long lifespan. No need to hurry. Our biggest enemy has been sent off to the afterlife by our good old Naruto. Apache was taken aback by Sung Sun's surprising act of kindness. I'm not doing it for the strength. A playful arch of Sung Sun's eyebrow suggested she was quite amused and curious. What other reasons do you have? Apache let out a groan at Sung Sun's obvious act of pretending not to know. I don't think you'd get it. So, help me get it. It's for. Apache's gaze moved, settling on Naruto. She was met with his warm, reassuring smile. That guy. Hey, Apache can be honest as well. Can you believe that? Sung Sun just couldn't help herself when it came to teasing. Apache couldn't help but acknowledge that Sung Sun was just the right match for someone like Naruto. You're such a pain, Apache grumbled. Her earlier despair swapped out for a fresh determination after chatting with Sung Sun. I could really use your help, Sung Sun. Kukuku. Go ahead and say what's on your mind. I have a feeling that Naruto is going to head to the living world with everyone. Would you want to hang out in Hueco Mundo with me? She was looking for some company to help her keep searching for more hollow, and the Forest of Manos was just the right spot to achieve her goal. Sung Sun was definitely curious, but her playful smile stayed right where it was. Era, are you getting hooked on my teasing? Do you think this means you're starting to enjoy a bit of pain? No way. I'm looking to kick things off with the Manos here. Sung Sun squinted, her expression shifting to one of seriousness. I'm not really sure if Haribel-sama will be on board with this. So, that's why I'm reaching out to you. Apache's voice softened to almost a whisper, and she looked down, showing a side of herself that's not often seen. I'll leave convincing Haribel up to you. Sung Sun found it hard to ignore Apache's heartfelt plea. Wow, you're quite the handful, aren't you? I'll come up with a reason. For now, just roll with what everyone else is doing. Sure thing. Naruto watched from afar as Sung Sun waved at him with her long, flowing sleeve. A bright smile played on her lips, showing just how effortlessly she handled her job, looking after Apache and sorting out any problems that popped up after dealing with the two hollows. He had been waiting for Apache to mess up for a long time. Her never-ending craving and intense drive for power really clashed with the balance that's essential between instinct and awareness to become a Vasto Lord. She just needs a good lesson to settle down. He pushed aside thoughts of Apache for now and concentrated on Haribel's injuries instead. Even though it seemed shallow, seeing her covered in blood really sent shivers down his spine. The egg she held was marked, its surface smudged with a bit of her own life essence. Haribel, once you're all healed up, we'll head out with Yoruichi. Why's that? Haribel thought there was really no reason to put their lives on the line in the living world since Baraggan was gone. They could easily hang out in Hueco Mundo for as long as they wanted. Haribel, do you trust me? I do, but, no excuses. Come on, just join me. Haribel found it hard to say no to him when he pulled such a sneaky but clever move on her. She nodded her head and used her Ryotsu to wipe away the blood that was covering her. She then focused on the blood-soaked egg, her face scrunching up into a frown. Her Resurrección ability focused on creating and manipulating water. She still hadn't figured out much about her natural abilities in her Vasto Lord form, mainly because there just wasn't any water in Hueco Mundo. One of the reasons he wanted to take her to the living world was that she could figure out her ability. His thoughts suddenly stopped, and his eyes went wide as the blood started to pull away from the egg's surface, almost like something unseen was at work. Haribel turned her gaze from the egg, and to her surprise, the blood seemed to follow her eyes. Haribel discovered her natural talent when she just couldn't stand seeing the egg all dirty. She could create and control water from thin air. Right now, it looked like she could only manipulate water. Should I say, just like I expected from Mommy Haribel? Mila Rose chuckled at what he said. The emotions. The dark-skinned Arrancar took a moment as Haribel draped her sword arm around her neck. Haribel-sama? Let's keep our private conversations between us, okay? Haribel gently nudged Mila Rose and shot a soft-eyed look at Naruto. Are we ready to head out? What was? Are we ready to head out? Haribel asked her question again, closing her eyes and tilting her head a bit. Naruto, ready to head out? Haribel had this icy vibe about her, and you could really feel the chill in the air. It felt like she was silently saying, if you want to argue with me, just know you'll regret it. Mila Rose shivered and pulled at Naruto's shirt. Come on, just say yes already. Are you trying to get us all killed? Even with the urgency all around him, he just stayed put. Haribel, I can't just let this go. Let's chat about this later, just the two of us. Haribel's eyes went wide at his serious tone. She really couldn't bluff her way out of this one with Naruto around. Now she had to dive into a pretty awkward chat about her instincts and how she treated him. All right, she spoke softly, clearly showing that she was uncomfortable. Naruto gave a reassuring smile. I'll take it easy, Haribel. After wrapping things up with Haribel, he glanced at the figures fading away in the distance. Yoruichi was definitely enjoying herself while being chased by Chiruchi, who showed some impressive determination, just like in their fight a few days back. Does she like cats? A sudden, spine-chilling glare pulled him right out of his thoughts. As he turned around, he was surprised to see someone wearing a hollow mask. Even with the scary disguise, you could tell that the figure's Ryotsu belonged to a Shinigami. Wait, a Shinigami pretending to be a hollow? Hold on, I think I recognize him from that filler arc. He couldn't quite remember the Shinigami's name, but he had a faint memory of the backstory about this Shinigami pretending to be a hollow. The Shinigami had tracked a few hollows into a Garganta and found themselves in the forest of Manos. The Shinigami chose to stick around instead of heading home, aiming to take out as many hollows as they could. Do you really think it's a good idea to take on two Vasto Lord? Sure enough, the Shinigami took a step back after a few careful looks around. Naruto let out a sigh of relief. He really didn't want to end up killing a Shinigami while Yoruichi was around. Stay tuned for more. Thank you for taking the time to listen to this video. I'm thrilled you watched the video. If you enjoyed it, be sure to like and subscribe for even more exciting content coming your way soon.